Welcome to the ultimate Fujifilm XT5 stress test and first impressions video. I've divided this video into an unboxing section where we shall take a look at the camera itself, what's in the box, and the lens I decided to get for it or with it. I've also taken it for a proper stress test. Here's a little hint for you. And of course we shall explore street photography and then check out its video capabilities. But first, let's start with the unboxing of the camera and the lens. It comes in a small compact box, and in the top department you have all the usual suspects like the manual and some other paper waste I will never look at. Then there's the camera itself, and I went with the silver edition. It looks pretty nice. It looks great and makes me want to go out and shoot immediately. And the sound of the buttons and dials? Wow. Not to mention the shutter. 15 frames per second. The XT5 is a bit smaller than its predecessor and has a tilt screen instead of a fully articulating screen. I actually prefer that for photography, and to me that's going to be the main use, but it does take great footage as well, as we shall see later in the video. So make sure you stick around and like this video, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Thank you. Now let's have a look at that lens. I went for the new 23mm f1.4. In the box you'll find the manual, a lens bag and the lens itself with the lens hood. It's a tiny lens considering it's a fast f1.4 prime, and this also sounds fantastic. Just like the camera. Yes, we have come to the point where it's almost impossible to tell the optical difference between new cameras. They are all great. To measure which one is the very best one, all we can do is turn the buttons and dials and figure out which one sounds the best. And that's a matter of personal preference. Jokes aside though, it's a powerhouse of a camera in a compact retro looking body. 40 megapixels and great for filming, and I'm sure you've read all about the specs, so I won't waste your precious time with it. I'm all about real world use, which leads us to the real stress test in this video. A punk rock show in Tromsø. One of my favorite music genres. All the clips were filmed at 50 frames per second, 10-bit 422. ISO was on auto between 6400 and 12800, and the white balance was also set to automatic. I couldn't be bothered trying to fiddle around with the camera settings in this show, as I'm sure you understand. I was however surprised at the low light performance with high ISOs and how easy it was to color correct F-Log2. More on that later. It was a great show, and the XT5 survived the mosh pit, multiple beer showers, and I got some great images. I shot most of the photos in burst mode at the impressive 15 frames per second. Honestly though, I was very impressed by the results. All the images were shot at really high ISOs like 3200 and 6400, and the results came out great. It's also easy to switch between video and photo mode on the camera with the dedicated flick switch. The autofocus also did an excellent job considering how hectic this environment was. I was only hoping for one or two images that was actually in focus, but the autofocus locked on most times. So that was a positive surprise. And that's the stress test out of the way. Next up, street photography. And about time, it had been far too long. Small town street photography in the northern hemisphere in the wintertime was a cold experience. But it felt great to explore a new place again, and the XT5 did not disappoint. It's smaller compared to my Sony, so I'm definitely getting a smallrig grip for better handling. It's freaking cold up here, but it's really good to finally do some street photography again, and it's always good to explore a new town or city or place with your camera. In this case, the XT5. Very happy with it. Of course, I've been using Fujifilm many times before, and let's go. Let's do some more street photography. This far north it's dark all the time, and of course I had forgot my gloves. Freezing cold, so it was getting increasingly hard to operate the manual dials. The buttons and dials though, the ones that sound so good. Ooh, I like the retro feel of it when I go out shooting, and I think it gives the camera a little bit more soul. So I would want to pick it up more often and go out and actually shoot with it. It also actually fits in the pocket of my big jacket, so I don't have to have a bag with me all the time. I could tell I was a little bit rusty in the street photography department, and small town street photography with limited time was a challenge, but I got a few that looked decent. If you want to see more of my street photography, you can check out my Instagram at Bryn. Next up is the video test, and I went to Tromsø Aquarium for this. I'm a complete sucker for aquariums. If there is an aquarium in the place I visit, I will be there for sure. It's also a great place to shoot video for my ever-increasing stock footage portfolio. For this, I shoot 50 frames per second f/log2 10-bit 422 at a bitrate of 360. When shooting for stock, I always want to use the highest bitrate to have more wiggle room in post-production. From the aquarium, I got these clips I was happy with and great to have in my stock video portfolio. I got a few more clips here and there from walking around town. What the XT5 miss in the video department is programmable buttons for filming in different settings, but I didn't get the XT5 specifically for video, so that doesn't really matter to me. I'll just leave it on the best setting for video mode in case I stumble upon something I can film for my stock video portfolio. f/log2 is easy to color correct anyway. And that was the final test I wanted to do with the XT5. Let's conclude this video. The XT5 is the world's best sounding camera. It clicks really well. It survived a sweaty mosh pit, multiple beer showers, and the punk fest at Blue Rock Cafe. So I think the weather sealing was put to the test as well. And of course the buttons and dials, the retro look we all love. So was there something I didn't like about this camera? Yes, there was. Fuji still has a terrible time-lapse menu. You can't set the desired number of frames easily. And that should be easy to fix. For time-lapse enthusiasts like me, I'd love to see that change in the menu. Plain and simple, it sucks, but let's not be negative. The autofocus on the XT5 is great. So there, and if you have been following the channel for a while, I'm sure you have noticed that I swap camera systems left, right and center. It's my hobby, I don't know. Thank God I'm not into cars, because that would have been financial ruin for sure. Anyways, I've been working a lot lately, and I decided that when things calm down a little bit, I wanted to have a dedicated street photography cam. And for the longest time, I was fixated on getting a Leica Q2, a second-hand Leica Q2. But even secondhand, they are still $4,200 up here in good old Norway. So when I got to my senses, I started looking at other options. And one of those options was getting the Fujifilm X100V, but as it turns out, they have trouble getting it into the stores. And when I looked at secondhand options for the X100V, people are actually trying to charge more than retail price for them secondhand, and that is just stupid. So I went with the XT5 and the 23mm f1.4, which is a killer combo for street photography, and it's so versatile. I can shoot for my stock video portfolio, I can grade the footage, it looks awesome, and it has just many more uses. So I'm very happy I ended up with the XT5 instead of a secondhand Leica Q2 or that X100V. It's much cheaper than the Q2, and it has many more functions than the X100V. So I'm very happy, and thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and if you aren't already, please do subscribe to the channel and like this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.